back. Welcome back to the Time War podcast. I'm here with Anish. Say hi, Anish.
Hello.
I'm here with Samia, our Bayern fan. Say hello, Samia.
Hi.
And then we're here with KJ, our PSG fan. Say hi, KJ. If you're there.
KJ, we were
KJ.
shooting.
I'm here. I'm
Oh,
here.
oh,
I had a
okay.
call.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's KJ. But yeah, so today we're gonna do the tactical, just an overall analysis of or even you could say a preview of the Champions League final on Sunday. And now we finally know who's gonna be in the final. It'll be PSG versus Bayern.
The final we expected.
The final we expected, and the final we wanted and needed.
And wait, Pablo and Nish, can I say something real quick?
Yeah,
sure.
Go ahead.
All you time warpers out there, remember, like, comment, share the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and share the vid, man. Please.
Yes.
These guys put in a lot of hard work for you fellow time warpers. So
thank you, KJ.
reciprocate the love.
Definitely.
Yes, for sure.
I second that.
Yes. So, but yeah, so that's what we're gonna talk about today. So, I'm just gonna hand it over to you, Anders. So, go ahead, start.
Yeah, bro. So today we're gonna be talking about the final, the big Champions League final, which is on Sunday, 3 Eastern time. So this is a final between two really good teams. And the problem is that this is one of those games that can go so many different ways. And there's so many different scenarios and so many different players that can have a good game and some that can have a bad game. There's also a lot of questions surrounding what the starting 11s are going to be of each team on that given day, because each team has their own injury issues. We've been hearing things about Boateng, we've been hearing Verratti, we've been hearing Navas, and whether or not these players are present, fully fit, or in the starting 11 or coming off the bench. Whatever the scenario is, it's going to have a major impact on what the result of the game is going to be. And, with that, we're going to get started and discussing the tactical analysis of this game. So, looking at the podcast channel, we see definitely, what I thought initially was going to be the 11s of both the teams. So KJ, what do you think of PSG's 11? So you said there might be a possibility of Verratti coming in even into the starting 11 on Sunday. So who would he come in place of? Would it be Paredes or Hart? And would Idrissa Gueye possibly play in this game as well? What would be PSG's midfield? Because that's the real question. I don't think there's any disagreement on who would start in their defense or their attack. I think Tuchel's going to go with this front three, but what would the midfield look like? Because that would have had huge implications on the results of the game.
Right. So thank you, Anish. Appreciate it. Yeah. So I think ideally, if this was in a vacuum, ideally, Champions League form out of it, I think Tuchel would feel comfortable on any given day playing. If Marquinhos is dropped into the midfield, which we assume he is, he'd rather play Verratti and Gueye, because you have Marquinhos, who's kind of like the base. Defensively, everything that comes with Marquinhos. In this new kind of Tuchel position that he has, a DM kind of like Casemiro-esque role that he's now found to be a good place for him. He knows how to kind of advance, when to lay off, when to support, and when to attack, which is what I think that something that Verratti in his past in this PSG team has never had, because he's had to play. It's almost like kind of Pogba's situation, whereas Verratti is great going forward, but he always has to be kind of cautious to how far he presses up, because there's been Thiago Motta or Alas Diarra or Lo Celso. Those aren't people who you're kind of have faith in to man the defensive unit, which something that Gueye and Marquinhos provide for him. It lets Verratti be able to, have license to move forward and link up with Neymar, Di Maria, whoever's in the offensive third. So I know that Tuchel would much rather play a Gueye, because he knows he's a workhorse. He's going to run. He's going to run forever and make those tackles and make his presence be known, so it doesn't give it doesn't give Bayern like a lot of time in the midfield to kind of do their typical picking apart of teams, which we saw with Barcelona.
Mm.
So I think I think Gay, Verratti, Marquinhos would be my ideal lineup, but because of Paredes, how Paredes has been playing in Herrera, it kind of makes it difficult. But I definitely think Verratti definitely comes on for Herrera, maybe, but it's like Verratti and almost have. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Verratti.
Oh, you cut off again, KJ.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm here. Yeah, Verratti and Paredes almost have the same role with being like press resistant, making the deep line play beneath the lines. But I just feel like Verratti is kind of like more calm on the ball, and he's more defensively adherent than to Paredes, who can get caught. You know what I'm saying? Caught watching or caught too high up, and he doesn't really have that. You know what I'm saying? That he doesn't have that it factor that Verratti has in the defensive end of the ball.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And we'll definitely talk more about the lineups. Like, I feel like we can illustrate more on the lineups later on in the podcast, because we'll talk about what PSG's defensive shape should be. Right. And I feel like it's really key what 11 Tuchel deploys, especially when it concerns the midfield, because I feel like some of these midfielders are more comfortable towards the right hand side, and some are more comfortable towards the left hand side, and like that I think has an impact on on who, like, which midfielder covers their fullback and how well they do it, in the defensive phase. That's like going to be a really important, prospect for PSG in this game, because, they're going to have a defensive plan, and they're going to definitely have to have cover for their fullbacks, because like to engage, Bayern's, wide men with just your fullbacks, as we saw with Barcelona, it could be disastrous. So PSG will need to double up on the flanks, like in the defensive phase, and play somewhat of a wide yet compact formation, like when they're in defense. So we then go to Bayern's 11. I think it's going to be largely unchanged. So Sanmia, you believe that Kimmich, based on the fact that he started the last two games and is a bit more match fit than Pavard, is probably going to start over Pavard, and maybe we'll see Pavard off the bench.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would keep the same lineup as the same as what we used against Barcelona and Lyon. I heard like there could be chances that Pavard would start at right back, and then maybe Boateng, maybe Süle takes Boateng's spot, because Boateng might not be 100% fit, while Kimmich would take over Thiago or Goretzka's spot. So it could happen, but I feel like it's very unlikely, because it's a final, and what worked up against Barcelona and Lyon worked wonderfully well. So I don't see why Flick needs to change what was working perfectly. So in my opinion, I think Flick would just use the same lineup as what he used against both Barcelona and Lyon, assuming Boateng would be 100% fit for the final.
Yeah, I think that covers all the bases. I think Boateng starts. So you don't think that Lucas would have a major role in this game, do you?
Lucas Hernandez?
Yeah.
Oh, no. To be honest, no, because if one of Boateng, or if Boateng like does not look 100% fit, I think it will be Süle that starts. So I could see Flick subbing Lucas Hernandez on around the 85th minute if we're leading, to just protect our lead. But other than that, I don't see Lucas starting.
All right, so I think that pretty much covers what the 11s may or may not be there. As you can see, like with Bayern, the picture is a bit clear, but with PSG, it's a bit more foggy, and it really depends on what approach Tuchel wants to use for this game. And I feel like what schematic and tactical approach he wants to use for this game will go a long way in determining what 11 he selects, because I don't think he's going to select a midfield that goes completely against what he's planning to do. For example, if he's playing a more defensive game, you could see more of Herrera, Idrissa Gueye, Marquinhos anyways is a given, but you might see more from them and more of them in this game. Like if PSG are planning to play a reactive style, and if you see, Tuchel adopt a more proactive approach and try to really press Bayern higher, you might see the creativity of Verratti and definitely a lot more Paredes in this game. But like it looks like there's a chance of Verratti starting. So with this midfield, Paredes, Marquinhos, Herrera, I mean, I feel like there still is a possibility, assuming like Tuchel makes a last minute decision to like bring Verratti, or start Verratti from the bench. We could see this midfield again because it is a pretty balanced midfield. You have Herrera to do the defensive work. You have Marquinhos to sit, which is going to be really important when you're trying to disconnect Muller from Lewandowski. Like having Marquinhos to sit and having that DM there is going to be really crucial for PSG. And Paredes, of course, he's a good alternative to Verratti when you want like a more technical midfielder to create from those deep areas, especially. But I feel like the real key for PSG here and where the game is going to be won both teams is how their attack is going to perform on the day. I feel both defenses might be suspect at times, but like it depends on who's clinical in the attack, right? So like KJ, if you're there, like what do you think what do you think of like the lack of clinicality in the last two games for PSG, and do you think like that can carry over into this game? Like, and is it something that's worrying you as a PSG fan? Even though they scored 5 goals in the last two games, they could have won more.
So you make, as usual, you make some very good points, which any like football fan would have to look and say, okay, PSG has been kind of lackluster with the chances. But to me, it's like it's a thing of it's not complacency. You know what I'm saying? Like if these were like different type of players, I would be like, yeah, I have a worry about like these players' confidence. Like I don't think these players worry about their confidence. So it's like me as a fan, a football fan first, it's like I can't be more worried than these players. Like one, you have Mbappe, he's been in a World Cup final, so he's been there before. Then you have Di Maria, he's been in the final. Then you have Neymar, he's been. So it's like at the end of the day, all these players in their day are proven like to be able to score big goals, make good big plays, and things of that nature. So it's like it's gearing towards this game being like a kind of unleashing of both, not even just PSG, of Bayern as well, because I know Lewandowski's looking at this game like, okay, this is the biggest stage right now that I could possibly be in. So let me take this game by the scruff of the neck and not fluff my lines and try to be as clinical as possible. Not so much that it's they're thinking that it's taking them out of the game from being themselves, but I just think that I, as a fan, to answer your question, no, I'm not worried about the lackluster finishing, because like I said, if you watch the games, it's definitely chances that should be put away. But the fact that these chances aren't having like a big impression on the players itself, like then Neymar's not missing a chance, and then throughout the whole game, you're wondering, okay, is he going to shoot or is he going to have the confidence to pull off this? No, like they're still going for it. So I rather them be trying and missing than not trying, you know what I'm saying, and totally just not being themselves. So no, I'm not really worried about the lack of goals.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way of looking at it, and I think that this is a final is unlike any other game, and you would have to think that, in this sort of situation, Mbappe's experience in a World Cup final, scoring in a World Cup final, and Neymar's experience scoring in a Champions League final, I feel like that could calm the nerves a little bit and, help them to be a bit more cold in front of goal. Like a bit more cold-blooded and clinical in front of goal, like having that experience in their back pocket, knowing that, been there, done that. It's like that, where like you kind of have that, you kind of like, you don't have that chip on your shoulder anymore. You've like proven yourself in the past, and you can do this. Telling yourself those things in these sort of like pressure situations in life, I think it can go a really long way in determining, the outcome, and the outcome of this game in particular. So,
right.
Same goes for Lewandowski, of course. He never had a standout game in the either the quarter or the semi. Of course, regardless, he still scored, which just goes to show you how dangerous his movement and especially his off the ball movement and how he evades the offside trap. How effective he is at evading the offside trap. Like, I mean, like he's probably the best striker in the world. Like as I said in our Barcelona Bayern, pre-match, he's probably the best striker in the world, probably the best striker this decade, if not of all time. At
Right.
Spoiling that offside trap. He's really good at staying onside. I can count on one hand, from the games I've seen in the Bundesliga. I've seen like pretty much all of Bayern's games there, and like he's always keeps an eye on that. He's always like make sure he stays in line. And you saw it against Barcelona with the goal that he scored. He timed his run to perfection. He was literally the exact, at exactly 0.0, in line with PK when that that lob from Coutinho came in, and he just had a simple header in the end. I feel like that's going to be the game Lewandowski really plays in this as well. He's going to bide his time. He's not going to be involved, a terrible lot in the build-up play, but he's going to bide his time in the box, and he's going to just, evade his markers, and he's just going to bide his time and just spoil those offside traps and use his off the ball movement to just, pop up with a goal out of nowhere. I feel like that's really going to be his game. And I still don't understand to this day why he didn't take that penalty against Bayern Munich in 2013. I feel like that was his calling. I feel that was his goal and his chance to leave his mark on that final. But of course, Gundogan took it. And I feel at that time he was a young man. He had nerves probably, for a 23-year-old playing in a Champions League final. Of course, it's not easy. But he's matured a lot. He's changed clubs. He's come to the club that, defeated his team in that circumstance, and he's grown a lot as a striker. He's had to suffer a lot over the years. He's had to learn a lot, and I think he's come to this final as a changed man and somebody who's ready to take the game by the scruff of the neck and ready to take those opportunities if and when they come in these 90 minutes or 120 if need be. So let's go to the next image here, which is actually a schematic from the 2017 quarterfinal second leg between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. And you might ask, what is the relevance of this game here? What implications does this schematic have? And why are we even talking about this? Madrid got trounced by City over a month ago. It feels like an eternity since we've seen them, and they've not been relevant. But what happened in this game and in this week, back in 2017, I believe it was in April. I believe it was the second or third week of April. Bayern Munich got knocked out, of course, by Real Madrid in that quarterfinal, and I feel like Real Madrid, something that they did, which is something I didn't expect Zidane to do, which was so simple yet so clever tactically, was Real Madrid coaxed Bayern into playing a high line. Of course, they came into that game, 2-1 down on aggregate, so they had to sort of attack. But the way Real Madrid played these two legs, the Madrid defended very narrow in this compact 4-4-2 shape. And at times it allowed Bayern, Bayern's fullbacks, especially Alaba, who was probably their most aggressive fullback, it corresponds to Davies, in the current season, where he was really quick. He had pace, he had youth, and he was bombing up that left flank a lot in the game. And Madrid actually gave him quite a bit of time and space in the wide areas in that game. But the thing is that Madrid, what they did was that they defended in this compact 4-4-2 shape. Madrid defended very narrow, and they allowed Bayern to come forward. And they just had Bayern in front of them pretty much the whole game. Madrid sat very deep, and they used the transitions a lot. And I spoke on why Barcelona and previously Leon should have done this. Of course, Barcelona, as I expected, to an extent, Setien, wouldn't do the smart thing, and he completely flopped there because he tried to play an open game. But Leon did this, pretty well, actually. They did this pretty well. They defended narrow, defended compact. What happened in back in 2017 was at that time you had Ribery, typically in the place where Perisic would play now. Right. Modric would actually man mark Ribery, because Ribery was that kind of guy who would, cut inside, similar to the way Bayern's wingers do now. He would cut inside and move around a lot. He was very mobile. And so Modric would stay with him. at that point in time, Thiago was probably the most advanced playmaker in the Bayern team. Like currently, it's Muller, and of course, Thiago's playing that Alonso-esque role in the double pivot, like in the current Bayern. But in this game, Isco would mark Thiago. You know, he would prevent Thiago from turning every time he received the ball, turning and seeing Lewandowski. And that was like
Right.
a really key way to isolate Lewandowski, you know, and cut the service off of it. And this narrow, you know, shape, what it does is that when Bayern's fullbacks inevitably are focused into like going up, you know, every time they would cross, that central space and the half spaces would be so congested that that ball would more than likely fall to a Madrid player. And then from
Right.
that point, Madrid would launch counterattacks, you know, and rely on the transition, which is what Leon did, you know, like especially in the first 20 minutes of the game. And Leon, you know, much like Madrid did in this game, Leon actually exploited that high line, you know, that Bayern used in that game. You know, like we'll talk about the high line, of course, later, but Leon really got in behind, and I feel like Leon have a young team and they have some fast players. So unlike with Barcelona, when Suarez would try to get in behind, but the would easily be intercepted, you know, Ikambi and Depay have the athleticism and pace to give Bayern's center backs a foot race and actually get in behind and get shots off. You know, and it all comes down to the movement. You know, back in 2017, you know, Benzema and Ronaldo would, you know, peel slightly wide to separate the center backs out a little bit and like create an opening in that central channel. And yesterday, you saw something kind of different. I mean, at times, Ikambi and Depay were doing that, but they were also switching positions. You know, that interchange was there. Sometimes Ikambi would go between the center halves. You know, like, and that movement, you know, when you're in transition, like, or leading up to a transition, can really go a long way in creating chaos in that back line and disorienting the center backs, you know, and that could really help you when you're in a counterattacking situation when that ball is over the top or that through, you know, and that's how Leon were able to create a lot of chances. But you know, like as we know, the finishing was off that day, and of course, if you don't finish your chances against a quality team like Bayern, they'll grow into the game and they'll punish you, which is exactly what Gnabry did.
Right.
Now, why is the 4-4-2 important? Because I feel under Tuchel, you know, like that's sort of the defensive setup, you know, that you know in the defensive phase that PSG use against astute opposition, and we saw that against Liverpool. And interestingly enough, you know, like going back to 2017 and why that week was really important. Later that week, after Bayern got knocked out, um, that Bayern team under Carlo Ancelotti played Tuchel's Borussia Dortmund in the German Cup, and actually Dortmund under Tuchel won that game 3-2 and would go on to win the tournament like later that spring. And I feel like, you know, like Bayern were definitely wasteful in front of goal in that game, but I feel Tuchel in his time at Dortmund, you know, like in all the games, he got some really good results against Bayern, and he got some really bad results, and that was a real learning experience for him, and it could have implications for this game, especially that 3-2, because, you know, Tuchel learned. I mean, like whether he's learned it or not, but in Tuchel's experiences there, every time he used a conservative approach, relying on transitions to create chances, right? He usually would get a good result against Bayern. For example, a 0-0 draw against Pep's team in the spring of 2016, a victory against Carlo's team at home in the fall of 2016, you know, and a victory in the cup in the spring of 2017, which I just mentioned. And you know, like every time he would play a high line against Bayern and play more proactive, he would oftentimes get exposed. You know, like his first encounter with them in 2015, he lost 5-1, and away at the Allianz Arena again in 2017, he lost 4-1. You know,
Right.
so he's learned that, you know, like definitely I feel like he's learned that against Bayern he needs some sort of defensive plan. You know, with Dortmund he played a back five. You know, but in this game, what I think is going to happen is that he's going to play a 4-4-2. You know, he's going to go with a 4-4-2. And, you know, because that's PSG's best shape. And if you go to the next image here, you will see PSG's defensive setup in the game against Liverpool, which I feel was actually their best game under Thomas Tuchel. I feel this was the most impressive game that PSG played because they focused on the defense. I feel like they knew when to press, Liverpool up high, which they did in the beginning of the game. But I also realized that, after going back and watching this game, that they knew when to drop off and when to defend compact. And I feel like there's definitely similarities, that Tuchel can use, from this game that he can take and he can apply to the final, which, PSG are about to play, because this, 4-4-2 structure with some of the attacking players, of course, coming back to cover their fullback, this is going to be a really helpful tool for him and for PSG to use against Bayern Munich, because, I'll say this again, when you're playing against a team like Bayern, you have to double up on the flanks. I mean, you just have to. And so transitions become super important, and balls over the top become super important. So KJ, if you're there, can you give us some thoughts on this? What do you think PSG's approach should be, and do you think it's a good idea, given Tuchel's past experiences and given some of PSG's games against top opposition, that a more conservative approach with a balanced compact 4-4-2 in defense, if that would be apt for PSG to use in this game?
I think something happened to him. Got disconnected.
Oh, I think he might have left. I mean, that's all right. We'll go on to the next picture actually, and this one actually is key, because I think it shows PSG's defensive setup shifting whenever Liverpool in that game would they would change the play. They would try to switch the play from the right to the left. And PSG's whole team in that compact 4-4-2 would move from flank to flank, would kind of sway. And another thing is that it shows Neymar, tracking back and linking up with that 4-4-2, and helping out in defense. Mm-hmm. And another key aspect of this image that I want to highlight is that you can see actually on the far side, I know it's pretty difficult, but you can see on the left flank, the two furthest players on the left flank, actually, one of them is Robertson, and the other guy who's slightly ahead of him and tucked inside is Angel Di Maria, actually. And I feel like Di Maria, his work rate and his defensive contribution, I feel are actually going to be key in this game, because I feel Di Maria has a better work rate than Mbappe and Neymar, definitely. Sure. And if PSG opt to go with that 4-4-2 defensive structure, I think it's most likely going to be Mbappe and Neymar up top as two strikers, and I think Di Maria is going to be in that 4-4-2, tracking back and covering Alphonso Davies, because I think Carrera would definitely need help against both him and Perisic, and later in the game, perhaps Gnabry if Coman was to be substituted in on the right flank. So now we go on to the next image, which is another schematic, and I think it shows the matchups of this game. So here is when we start talking about, the high line and the low line and, the mid block, all those kinds of things that could go into this game. And there's many different scenarios, right? If Bayern are not stupid, Flick is not stupid. Flick came out yesterday after the game and said, we need to tighten up our defense. And for me, that means only one thing. He's not going to play a high line throughout the game, like he did against Barcelona and like he did against Lyon. There will be long periods where they do use the high line, which is important from a PSG perspective, because what are PSG going to do with that? Yeah. But from a Bayern perspective, it's if you play with a lower line sometimes, and if you hold a deeper line, it's less risky for them as well, And what happens then is that you could coax PSG into attacking a little bit, and pressing a little bit higher, and becoming a little bit stretched out vertically. And what that does is that it opens some spaces now suddenly that Bayern can exploit, because the one strength that Bayern have is building from the back, right? And they can build out, if need be, Thiago can drop in between the center backs, and they're really good at playing the ball and moving the ball up the pitch. Their center backs are very technical. We talked about that against Barcelona. And what I feel is that, when PSG go up, I feel like Bayern and get stretched out. I feel like Bayern can actually exploit that and score. And, what I'm trying to say here is I feel like I don't know where the goals are going to come from, because ultimately goals can come from anywhere. But the chances for both teams, I feel, are going to come from transitions. I really do. PSG transitioning and Bayern transitioning. So, Sanmia, it's like I think there's nobody better than you to talk about Bayern. So if you're there, how do you think Bayern will create chances in this game? Do you agree that they're gonna create chances, by dropping off sometimes and allowing PSG to come forward, and using the ball playing abilities of their center backs, or do you think they're just gonna create chances mostly through pinning PSG back, as they did against Lyon? So what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like Bayern, our defense has been very worrying. So, and it's nice that Flick came out and said we need to address our defense. So that's that's a must to do in the final. So, and one thing I realized that from the both games against Barcelona and Lyon is that in the first 20 minutes we took we needed the first 20 minutes in order for us to settle ourselves, like which is why both games against Lyon and Barcelona, in the first 20 minutes I kind of felt Barcelona and Lyon were the better team in the first 20 minutes. Because we needed the first 20 minutes to settle. So what I think we should do is that we play conservative first 20 minutes. Once we settle, that's when we can maybe unleash the high pressing, and we unleash that like energetic high pressing, in pressing, and our typical Bayern possession approach. So to answer your question is that one of Bayern's most dangerous weapon is that Bayern Munich have demonstrated great fluidity in our front four. Like in our front four, there's Müller, there's Gnabry, there's Perisic, there's Lewandowski. So one thing that's very unique is that sometimes you will see Müller in the right wing and you'll see Gnabry in the center. Sometimes you'll see sometimes you'll see Lewandowski in the left wing. So there's a lot of movements between our center backs, and that is one of the biggest weapon in our Bayern attack. So, and especially Gnabry, like scoring in both games against Barcelona and Lyon, and a lot of times like Gnabry's chemistry with Thomas Muller has been phenomenal, and you can also see like Thomas Muller's like his combination, his understanding with Lewandowski. Like I think that can really like give a lot of damages to the PSG defense, and so that's like our like that's our probably like main approach is the combination and just trying to play direct football. Even if that doesn't work at times, we can also use our fullbacks option. They can overlap and get into the right place to cross the ball, and we have a great crosser in Kimmich and Davies, who's also pretty good at crossing. So we have a lot of like options, whether it's in the center, there's like movements between our front four, and we can also use our width with Davies and Kimmich providing great crosses to our striker. So yeah, that's I think our most dangerous weapon will be our fluidity in our front four.
I do agree. I think that front four has great chemistry. I think Muller is ultimately the hub of that. I feel like Muller has really come alive this season. There's a reason he broke his assist record. Has got like 20 plus assists, in the league alone. And I feel like another key weapon for Bayern. I actually feel like there will be times when Bayern get transition opportunities of their own, because I feel like this is going to be at some points like a back and forth game. I do think Bayern is going to have most of the ball, but there will be times PSG also have the ball, and Bayern can have some like opportunities in transition, or to transition rather. And I feel like this Bayern team, of all the Bayern teams in the past decade, or maybe even ever, I feel like they have more pace than any version of Bayern I've seen. And I feel like in transitions, that's what makes them like probably the most dangerous Bayern team ever, is because of the amount of pace they possess. You know, you have Gnabry, you have Perisic, who can be pacey, you have Goretzka, who's amazingly athletic, you have of course Davies, and you have Alaba, a lightning quick center back. You know, you have Lewandowski as well, like who's fairly athletic. So this team is in really great shape. I feel like pace is another potent weapon for Bayern to use. So do you think, so would you agree? Do you think like Bayern's pace, when they're counterattacking, is gonna is gonna lead to some chances? I mean,
Yeah,
it definitely
definitely.
did against Spurs.
Yeah, definitely. Our pace would be very important for our counterattacks. So like especially when like when whether we intercept the ball from PSG, we have like great midfielders, or we can even use Thomas Muller's great like short passing, his creativity
Mm-hmm.
to just pass the ball to Gnabry, or sometimes you'll see Davies on the in the left wing just trying to like chase for the ball, and we can already like unleash a quick counterattack. So our pace have been amazing this season, and it's also another our secondary weapon to
Mm-hmm.
that we could use against PSG.
Mm-hmm. I think like what makes this Bayern team really dangerous is that they finally found a balance between having the ball and doing something with it. And of course the most famous, manager who likes to have the ball a lot is Pep Guardiola.
Mhm.
And Guardiola's teams, and of course the Spanish national team, which he didn't coach but was greatly influenced by him. They sometimes have that problem of like they have 100% possession, but they're not really doing anything with the ball. The ball is just moving side to side, and it's just like positional interchanges, quick things here and there. And oftentimes we would see in the past, like teams would just park the bus, and just keep the ball in front of them the whole time. And, there wouldn't be any sort of, thrust, any sort of breaking down occurring there to actually create chances and score goals, you know. So a lot of those tiki taka teams, if you will, like oftentimes would end matches in a low scoring fashion because like they had the ball, but there's few and far between in terms of like what chances were created and the quality of those chances. But I feel like the differences with this Bayern team, I feel like they're kind of a hybrid between Heinkes' team, which I feel was slightly more defensive, and
Yeah.
the Guardiola Bayern team, and they figured out a balance between those two. They use a proactive approach,
Mhm.
kind of like both teams did at times. They like to have the ball a lot. They have a very dynamic and fluid midfield, which is apt for counter pressing, winning the ball back quickly, and also is dynamic in how it creates chances through the likes of Thiago and Muller. But I think the key difference between the Pep Bayern team and the Pep Barca team and this Bayern team, they all hold a high line. They all like to have possession. But I feel like this Bayern team, more than any of the other possession-based teams we've seen in this decade, be it Man City, be it, the Guardiola Bayern, is that this Bayern team really knows what to do with the ball while they have it. And they do a lot with the ball, a lot more with the ball when they have the ball. They move it vertically, they cut inside. There's a lot more penetration and a lot more speed, a lot more, confusing movement that creates chaos in the opposition defense. And a lot of dynamism in Bayern's attack, which allows them to score a lot of goals. Their objective is never to just have the ball; it's to score goals. And I feel like going in with that mindset, makes this Bayern team really dangerous. I mean, like Messi aside, if you take Messi out of that Barca team, I would say this Bayern team is more dangerous than that Barca team that under Pep. I would say this Bayern team is more dangerous than even Guardiola's Bayern team because of the way they use the fullbacks to overlap, which is something they took from Heinkes' template, and the way that like the front four is very fluid, as it was under Heinkes, but you know this team is more aggressive in how it pushes up the pitch than Heinkes' team, which is why I feel like they scored so many goals in the Champions League this season and 100+ goals in the Bundesliga. This is one of the I think they scored 157 goals in all comps, and I think this is the most dangerous attacking version of Bayern Munich, given the pace, given the way they keep the ball, and given the striker there in Lewandowski to stat pad and score a ton of goals like at any given moment, really, in a season, in any game. And I feel like that's what makes them really dangerous. And I feel like Bayern are the slight favorites in this game. And I feel like, like the reason that is, and I want Sanmia and KJ, both of you guys to chip in on this. I feel like Bayern is a more complete team from top to bottom in terms of they have two super fullbacks, arguably world-class fullbacks. They have a complete midfield, and they have a complete, front four or front three, whichever way you want to look at it. And they have like possibly the best goalkeeper in the world. Whereas PSG, I feel like the midfield, like if I mean, of course, like Tuchel, if Tuchel selects right based on his template, the midfield can be very complete and really dynamic, as we've seen in the previous game. But and of course the front three, like it really, I mean, PSG have the best front three or front four in world football if everybody's fit, in my opinion, because of just, I mean, the chemistry is probably better at Bayern's, but PSG just have the individuals, like would you agree? But the thing is, like, I feel those fullbacks of Bayern Munich can go, like, I feel that's where Bayern Munich are a bit more complete than PSG, because their fullbacks are a little bit more reliable, especially in the attack. And I feel like what happens with those fullbacks and how PSG deal with them is going to go a long way in determining the results of this game. So what are your thoughts on that, on all that? I know that's quite a bit there, but
I can go first if Sammy, did you want to go first?
You go first.
Okay, so you're 100% right. Like, Bayern do have the 100% better team from top to bottom, I believe. Like, on a general scale, anybody with eyes that watch football could obviously see that. So it's like, with that being said, it's crazy because I would agree as well in this that the fullback battle, Bayern have the better fullbacks. If I was like a stat merchant, I don't know how much goals Kimmich has in UCL campaign, but if I'm not mistaken, I think not Kimmich, Davies. Bernat has more goals in UCL matches than Davies.
He has quite a few.
So like, you can, if going by stats, you could say that maybe it's 50-50, but I would agree with you that like Davies and Kimmich are they're clear the better fullbacks on the teams. So that battle, it can, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they're gonna have the impact. Everybody's gonna have. I'm just assuming everybody's coming to play. Like, I'm thinking about this game for the footballers that want to see Bayern versus PSG. So it's like, I think everybody's gonna be on top of their game. So if that's the case, I don't have a reason to think that Davies or Kimmich is gonna play lackluster for that much. But I think that battle is definitely they have good opposition. Like, they should win on paper. They should win, but obviously it's football. We watch it. Like, somebody Kara could have a good game. Like, anything could happen. So it's like the little individual battles like that, I feel like, are going to be key. But what was the other? You said something else as well.
Yeah, I feel like I think you hit all the bases. I just feel like, top to bottom Bayern, like, we can argue who has the better individuals. I mean, and that could go either way, but I feel they just have the more complete team because they have a good player in every position. And of course, there's some versatility there. There's some versatility with PSG as well, but I think the one thing I want to hear from you is, especially, counter-pressing and pressing is going to be like a really important part of this game. And Bayern have a counter-pressing machine in Goretzka who's going to like try and get as many turnovers as possible, like every time Bayern lose the ball. So I'm looking at these 11s right now, these matchups, and I see Muller and Marquinhos. And I feel like that battle is going to be huge. And what Lyon did really well, which Barca failed to do, because Muller probably was the best player on the pitch against Barcelona, and it was down to Barcelona's being stretched out, not congesting the middle well, and giving Muller a lot of space in the middle. But against Lyon, what they did, which they defended smart, and they defended narrow and compact, which is what, everybody should do when they're playing against Bayern Munich. That forced Muller out wide a little bit towards the end of the game, and he was playing like on the right wing a lot in the second half, like especially towards the end of the second half, and he was limited to just putting balls in from wide areas. So do you think what do you think Marquinhos' role is going to be? Do you think he might man mark Muller, and do you think it's better for PSG to use that kind of approach that Leon did by forcing Muller out wide because he would be further from Lewandowski?
I think honestly the thing is, Niche, with when you talk about Tuchel's defense as far as PSG goes, you can see the different parallels via the different squads in the different eras. Like this squad that he currently has, like you have multiple games you can look. You can look Man U first leg against Pogba.
Mm-hmm.
You can look Dortmund second leg against Holland. You can look the Liverpool leg, Fabinho, Marquinhos. Once again, like they adapt to man marking depending on what type of team they play. You know what I'm saying? So like if there's a creator on the opposition side, Marquinhos kind of like an auxiliary defender anyway. Like he's like you can watch any game, you can see it's obvious that the star player, like the focal point of the in the midfield especially, they make an impact on putting somebody around them. Like they might get their 1-2 little moments of brilliance here and there, but it's like they make it Tuchel makes it he makes it a caution to always be wary of that talisman in the midfield. So it's like Marquinhos is going to be man marking, I feel like, whoever, if that's what the game goes to, and which we know Muller, like everybody knows Muller, like he has the most assists for a reason. Like that's what he does. So you're going to have to make it an impact to make sure somebody's on him. So I feel like Tuchel's not going to be lazy to that. I could at least give him that, because he hasn't given me a reason to think that he's just going to, you know what I'm saying, do something foolish. But we've seen stranger things.
So, Sanmia, what do you think Bayern's fullbacks are gonna, or what impact do you think Bayern's fullbacks are gonna have on this game? And also, I think this is a really fascinating topic to discuss. What are the differences, in your opinion, between Kimmich and Alphonso Davies?
Okay. I'll answer the second question first. I think Kimmich is more. How should I say it? I think Kimmich is is better in terms of attacking. Although Davies is the better dribbler, but Kimmich is better. Is more. He's better at crossing. He's better at passing. He can switch the play better. So I think that's one thing Kimmich has ahead of Davies. And for Davies, I think he's the more balanced than Kimmich. Like Davies would be very aware of his defending duties, while Kimmich is less disciplined in terms of that. He's more of an attacking fullback, similar to like Trent is. Although Davies is very balanced, but while Davies is balanced, but he always has like a secret weapon, which is his speed. Like sometimes he can get out of position, but he can always use his speed and win the ball back. I think this is one advantage Davies has over Kimmich. But yeah, like I said, Davies is the more balanced fullback, while Kimmich is the more attacking one, and he has more attacking creativity. And what's the first question?
So what do you think both of their roles are going to be in the game? And I actually have a supplementary question to the last question. Do you think, you mentioned Trent, and that's exactly where my mind went to. So do you think Bayern's fullback partnership this season kind of mirrors Liverpool's last season, where Robertson was kind of the more all around modern fullback, kind of like what Davies is, and Kimmich is more of a playmaker, the way Trent is. He was kind of the same mold, where he was a midfielder who became converted into a fullback at some point in his career. So do you think it kind of mirrors that a little bit?
Yeah. Here's the thing. For most of this season, Pavard has been our right back, and we all know he's the more defensive right back. But in this case, yeah, I agree. Kimmich and Davies as a fullback does remind me a lot of the Liverpool fullback. Although I feel like Klopp last season relied more on their fullback in terms of attacking more than Bayern. For Bayern, we don't really rely too much on our fullbacks. It's more of our front four. I feel like Klopp uh, last season kind of used Robertson and Trent as their main playmakers. I think this is what differs Bayern from last year's Liverpool. But yeah, in some ways, Liverpool's fullback and Bayern's fullback for this Champions League campaign does have a lot of similarities. Like Kimmich is the more attacking right back, which he lacks some discipline, and while Davies is the more balanced one. Well, as for the game on Sunday, I think Kimmich will be more conservative. Like I think as Flick said, he will address our defense. So I feel like Kimmich will be told to be more defensive. He will not like go for it every time. He'll be both Kimmich and Davies will be playing as a very. I wouldn't be surprised if they will be conservative fullbacks for maybe yeah for the whole game. I won't be surprised if they're gonna be conservative. So because like it's a final and if they go forward, like Di Maria and Mbappe could really use the space to exploit it, and they could outnumber our defense. So and knowing sometimes Boateng and Alaba can be quite weak in terms of 1v1 defending. They could really use that space left behind by Kimmich and Davies. So I feel like Flick will tell them to be more conservative, and yeah. So yeah.
All right, great insight there. So one final thing before we move on to the last picture, like in the slideshow. Do you guys both agree? I feel like so this is like definitely one of those scenarios, and based on everything we talked about, based on transitions and everything, based on the fact that Bayern probably have the more complete team when you go man for man. Do you think and obviously the way that they can play out of the back? So do you guys like both think and Pablo, you can like add insight as well into it, like we can take everybody's opinions into account here. Do you think like a more open game from both the teams favors Bayern Munich in this situation? Because I think if both teams play fairly open, and if PSG use a more like proactive style, and both teams go at it, I feel like it could be a high scoring game. But ultimately, that would favor Bayern Munich more than it would favor PSG.
Go ahead, KJ.
Do you guys agree?
I agree. Yeah, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's an open game, I think it might favor. I don't think it over favors anybody. I think it's still like kind of neck and neck. Maybe Bayern edge it slightly, but I think like I don't know. It's like I agree, but then I don't. It's weird.
And a lot of that would depend, I feel like, and I think you would definitely agree with this, is that a lot of it would depend on who's clinical.
Yeah.
I think
You knew I would agree with that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. A lot of it, what about you, Sanvi? Like,
Yeah, same as KJ. It really depends who's more clinical, and yeah, like if both teams play an open game, I really feel like it really depends which team performs better on Sunday. So if PSG are more match fit and more ready, I feel like they're gonna take the advantage for the open game. While if Bayern are more match fit, more prepared, they will have that advantage of the open play. So it really depends which team performs on Sunday.
So
yeah,
which like so in your guys' opinions, like, can you describe and just like a couple sentences, like a brief, a brief game plan, based on what you've seen of your respective teams this season, like which game plan, proactive or reactive, conservative or attacking, like which game plan like would favor your team in your opinion, like in this game, given the opposition. So what, like KJ, like what do you think PSG should do in this game? Like what approach do you think they should take?
I think that they should play like pragmatic but active football, which I think Tuchel has shown that the team can play. Like, yes, this is Bayern Munich. You have to respect them and give them all credit, but they're trying to beat us just as much as them. So it's like they have to use what's their strength to, what I'm saying, like actually overcome this hurdle. Like, it doesn't make sense to go switch up the total game plan where it goes as attacking. Like, in the midfield and defense, like we know, like it can't be too many mistakes. Like, it has to be if you're gonna go with the game plan, go with it, and make sure you're adapting, not just sticking to one thing because it's just the only thing you have to go by. Actually taking time and looking how Bayern play, and I think just playing like compact, defending compact, playing the counters, taking your chances, and play how you've been playing. Open when there's time to be open. Mm-hmm. Hold the ball. Neymar drop deep when he needs to drop deep. Draw defenders. Wait for runs. 1-2s. Everything you've been doing. Just everybody be themselves. Di Maria, free kicks, always dropping deep as well. Linking up with whether it's Verratti and, you know what I'm saying? So that type of football, and see how it goes. You score first, and obviously you adapt. You absorb pressure. You see how that goes, and I don't really have too much to say. Like, I don't get paid the big bucks for the game planning, so
yeah. Like I think that sounds about right.
As far as it goes for me.
So, do you think like PSG would be good using their game plan against Liverpool and using Real Madrid's game plan against Bayern Munich? Like that general structure.
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
I agree 100%.
You're right, KJ. Your mic is like, I don't know what's happening.
It could be the dead zone,
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So Sanmia, so what do you think? Like, I mean, you expressed like some concerns about the high line. Like, okay, so can you address to the audience, like, what's up with this high line, and like, what approach do you think, overall, aside from just the high line, what approach overall do you think Bayern should go with in this game? Like, I mean, I feel like with Bayern, we have a clearer idea of what they're gonna do because they played like pretty similarly game to game all season. They haven't really changed up like their tactics a whole lot, and it's been a winning formula. It's proven to been a winning formula this season. I mean, we'll see what happens in the future, but it looks like the very high pressing, like high line, proactive approach has worked. So, what do you think like Bayern should do in the game? What do you think Flick will do? Given the way like he's been playing.
Like I don't mind us playing a high line, but I don't want us to play a high line when we're not set yet. Like for 2 games in a row, like the first 50 minutes we've been underwhelming. We haven't performed at our best. So I want us to slowly get settled. I mean, to get settled, then we can start using the high line. Because when we're not settled, when our pressing game is not organized, PSG will finish those chances. So we should not use a high line from the get-go. We should use a high line when we're more like when we're more settled, like when our pressing are organized, when we're playing our game. That's when maybe Flick perhaps can be like, okay, let's unleash our high line, because this if we do it from the get-go, like and when we're not settled, like PSG have pace in the attack, like Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria. They're gonna exploit that space, and all we can do is just hope PSG players don't finish the chances. So that's kind of like suicidal. So we should be more conservative in the first maybe even in the first half, like be conservative and use the. I feel like we should play similar to how we did against Dortmund in November, and our first game when we won 4-0. I think we should use approach when we were more conservative, when we were like playing a lower defensive line where we're playing to our center back strength, like for Boateng, he's not as fast as he used to be, so and that he cannot outrun Mbappe
No.
or Di Maria. So I feel like we should play to our center back strength. Even Alaba's not as fast as Di Maria, or Mbappe. He's not as fast as them. So we should play to our center back strength instead of having to rely on Davies to come back to run back to save to intercept the ball. Like we should play a lower defensive line similar to what we did against Dortmund, and then and just lower defensive line and play with our normal approach. Just don't have to play in a high line. We can just play in a mid block, and we can still exploit our plan A. We can still use our plan A.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of interesting things you said right there. And I definitely think like on an earlier episode, we talked a little bit about Boateng and Alaba's passing accuracy, and I think on the ball, Boateng, him and Gerard Piqué together probably are the best center backs in the world on the ball. Natural center backs in the world on the ball. Of course, this season Alaba has been excellent, so you'd have to put him in that conversation based on what he's done this season. So. And like a dangerous weapon that Bayern can use if they're sitting in mid block and PSG step up. And I did see that game against Dortmund. And I think for the second or third goal, like what happened is that Bayern really exploited Dortmund's high line.
Mm-hmm.
They really exploited Dortmund's high line with passing out of the back and created some very, very dangerous situations. I think they do that more often than not against Dortmund. I do remember, in 15-16 when Bayern beat Dortmund 5-1, Boateng's passing out of the back was like, it was unexpected for me, but it was a really quick and easy way for Lewandowski and Muller to get goals in that game because, his passing out of the back is just so accurate, and I think it comes so naturally to him, and he's a very gifted footballer. So I think, it does play to his strengths. The route one approach really does play to his strengths, and I think that's probably the best version of Boateng, like him hitting those lobs over the top, accurately and into the feet of Lewandowski and Muller to get in behind into themselves and to score goals. And I think that's another danger area for the PSG need to watch out for. Especially Kimpembe is probably they're quicker, the quicker of the two center backs and a bit more athletic than Thiago Silva is right now.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the last picture, right now actually. And I feel like this is I feel like we're gonna talk now about the final strategy, the final sort of possibility in this game, which is that PSG, they do end up going with that conservative approach, that that flat 4-4-2 in the defensive phase. Of course, it'll shift to a more of a 4-3-3 when PSG attack and go on those transitions. But given the fact that KJ, you suggested that Verratti might be starting ahead of probably Herrera, I feel like Idrissa Gueye, in that midfield trio, Verratti, Marquinhos, I feel like he's an even better option than Paredes for these circumstances, because the thing is that PSG, if they're going for a more conservative approach, for me, it's about the intensity. Even if you go for a conservative approach, you can't really do what you did against Dortmund, which is being way too passive. The intensity needs to be there, right? And it's interesting because, Tuchel started pretty much the same front three against Dortmund as he started in yesterday's, or the day before yesterday's match against Leipzig. But you can see the difference, because the difference between the Leipzig and the Dortmund game from a PSG perspective, one of the key differences is the intensity and the work rate of PSG against Leipzig versus against Dortmund, and the movement of that front, the interchange. Like it was way too static against Dortmund, but against against Leipzig, the movement was there from both the midfield and the front three. The midfield gave a lot of work rate, and that front three interchanged a lot in terms of position, which really created a lot of chaos in Leipzig's defense. So if you have Idrissa Gueye there, covering, Kimmich, Idrissa Gueye is pretty pacey for a midfielder. He's very athletic. And I think for this game, like using Idrissa Gueye, in that compact 4-4-2 shape as a left midfielder to cover Kimmich, who's going to like come in, probably maybe tuck inside into the half space, link up with Gnabry, all that. I think is invaluable. I think he's been an invaluable signing for PSG. Right. He has unreal work rate, unreal like box to box ability. And I think he's a really good supplement to Verratti. And I think, a Verratti Marquinhos double pivot in there, in front of Muller, to stop him, especially Marquinhos to like, get on top of Muller basically every time he receives the ball. Don't let Muller turn and see what's in front of him, because when Muller turns, he sees Gnabry here, he sees Perisic over there, he sees Lewandowski sort of in front of him. And that's where that's where the wheels in his brain start to turn, and he starts to like create passing lanes and all that kind of thing. He's a very, very smart player. But if Marquinhos can get on top of him right away and stop him from turning around, like when Muller receives the ball, stop him from turning around, like you can, and I said this in the Barcelona pregame as well, Muller, really smart footballer, really influential in the final third, really influential in the attack. But he's not the greatest on the ball, and if you get one or two guys on him every time he gets the ball and you don't let him settle, you can create turnovers from Muller. You can create turnovers from Muller, and he's somebody you can recover the ball off of, if you're PSG and you want to create a transition. Right. So PSG should look to really defend well against Muller and look to like win the ball off of him every time he gets it, because Muller really is the hub of this Bayern Munich attack. Everything kind of starts from him. He's the main playmaker. He really is. So like every time the ball comes into those central areas to Muller, what I would do if I was Tuchel is create turnovers from there. And PSG have, if they use, instead of Paredes, Idrissa, instead of Herrera, Verratti, I think that's probably an even better midfield to go with for this game, in my opinion. So what do you think about that?
I agree. Mm-hmm. Like you just play. That's been the team that he's put out all year that's gotten this far. So it's like, if these players are ready to go, it's a final. Like, this is what you paid for. This is what you made the transfers for. This is what you assembled the team for. So you go ahead with your leading horses and let it just play out. So 100%. Yeah, I would a midfield of Gueye, Marquinhos, and Verratti. That's you feel like more safe going into a big game with that type of midfield. Mm-hmm. At least in Gueye you're not going to get a lot of turnovers with the ball. You're going to get defense and work rate. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And of course, the interchange between Mbappe and Neymar is going to be important. I mean, that goes without saying. But let's talk a little bit about now some final thoughts on the game. We can each give our prediction, our scoreline prediction if we have some. They can be hopeful. But I definitely want to hear what everybody's just thoughts are, given everything we just discussed, and all the different ways the games could go. This is the fourth time, or no, I think it's the fifth time a French team and German team are meeting in the final. I think these countries have a lot of history, a lot of bad blood, a lot of wars that have been fought. And I think it's just kind of like a really epic clash, because they've met many times in the World Cup. Germany, winning the meeting in 2014. Of course, France won in 2016, and France, of course, and Germany are the two previous winners of the tournament. They both play some great football. They both produce some really talented players, and one of them is on the pitch tomorrow. Mbappe, who's probably the flagship of the current French generation, and he's considered the prodigy. He's considered the herald of the next generation.
Right.
So we have like a lot of that here. It's been a theme for the past couple of years, especially this season in the Champions League, where we see, that sort of next generation coming through. I feel like the era of Messi and Ronaldo is over. I personally don't consider those two top three players anymore. I think two of the top three are in this game. It's Neymar, Lewandowski, and the other one is KDB, whose Man City team got knocked out earlier by another French team in Lyon, and Davies, of course. I mean, another key fact of the match. This is the first time two players from CONCACAF will be facing against each other in the game in a Champions League final, and it's Navas from Costa Rica and Davies from Canada. So this is the first time two North American players will be against each other ever in a Champions League final, which is huge for us because most of us live on this continent. And it just goes to show like how much football has changed. So, I mean that's about it from me. So, my predictions for the game, 90 minutes or extra time. I'm not really going to specify that because it can go either way. But if PSG use the conservative approach, they work really hard in defense and they transition well and they're clinical. That's the key thing. They're clinical because they have to be clinical. Right. I'd say PSG win 2-1. If it's a more open game and Bayern get more opportunities and transitions, I can see a 3-1 for Bayern Munich. So, what are your what is everybody's prediction, really? Pablo, what's your prediction for the game given everything we talked about?
Wow. For some reason, I don't know why. I have a feeling this could go to penalties. I don't know. That wouldn't surprise me. I just have this feeling because each team could let's say they both play high line, they could expose each other's high line over and over. Maybe it ends 0-0. And then it has to go to pens, or they are on the same scoreline even after extra time. But if I had to give a prediction, 4-2 Bayern.
Okay.
Their experience
I think that's kind of in line.
Their experience will help them.
And I think that's kind of in line with what I said. Yeah. KJ, what about you?
This is hard. I legitimately, I didn't have a scoreline, and I'm trying to make one right now. Okay. So I have a couple scenarios. I have a couple different scorelines because I always like to do two, but I have a couple different scorelines. I have if everything goes right for Bayern, it could be 4-2, 3-1-ish. If everything go right for PSG, I feel like it could be the same, 4-2, 3-1. It could be the same on their stride, or what Pablo said. I think that it could go to pens as well.
Yep.
Those are the scenarios that I see in my head in different places.
Yeah, because it could go to, there'll be 3-3 in extra time, and then it goes to pen, or 2-2 or 0-0, however it goes. But yeah, so
that pen scenario is so eerie.
Yes, that's scary, man.
It is. I don't want to see penalties, but
me neither.
That's really exciting.
Oof. If Lewandowski misses a pen, man,
oh man. Bro, I haven't even thought about these type things.
Man.
You're putting new guidelines in it, Pablo.
Neymar misses a penalty. Nah. Oh
my god.
Does he takes the penalties, or is it Mbappe?
Yeah, he takes the penalties.
Oh no. Oh man. Well, what about Samia? Are you there, Samia?
Yeah, Samia.
Yeah.
Prediction. Yeah. What's your prediction?
If I'm gonna my prediction would be. I feel like Flick will address our high line and we will win 3-1.
Yeah, that was my prediction if everything goes well.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's my prediction. 3-1.
Yeah.
That's fair. Man.
So this game is definitely giving me vibes of the 2014 World Cup final for some reason.
Oh, it could end up like that. Someone scores
It
in the
could,
last
it
minute.
could.
Oh,
But both teams kept a clean sheet for 90 minutes.
They
I'll be
did.
surprised.
They
I'll be
did.
surprised if that happens.
And the reason for that was because everybody missed chances. Actually, that game should have been way more high scoring, and that was one of the reasons it was actually a really good final, despite being a low scoring final. Argentina probably had the better of the chances, and they exploited Germany's back line, which is probably why one of the reasons why this whole scenario kind of reminds me of that. Another reason is the way Bayern came into this final, beating Barcelona 8-2, which was a lot like the 7-1 game that Germany played against Brazil. So I feel like there are some parallels like between these two games. And last thing I want to say before we leave, this is actually, most people don't realize it, but this is the second time Neymar and Gnabry are meeting in a final. They met in the 2016 Olympics final, which finished on penalties, and Brazil won it on penalties with Neymar scoring the final.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So we'll see who comes out on top this time.
Okay, so let's put the scenario that they would give the Ballon d'Or this year. Whoever. So let's say PSG win, would Neymar get the Ballon d'Or?
There's not gonna be one.
No, I'm saying like if hypothetically.
Oh, I think there might be the best award or whatever like FIFA calls it. Like I don't know why there's two.
Yeah.
Would you say Neymar wins the Ballon d'Or?
If he wins it, then yeah, I'd say he deserves it. I mean, this was the determining factor to who gets the Ballon d'Or. This match determines it for me.
Yeah, and if Bayern win, Lewandowski for sure. Damn, man. We're only a few days away.
Yep.
I don't know if we'll do a watch along because we don't want to spoil it for each other.
No. I'd love to watch along. To be honest, I don't know about how do you guys feel about that, KJ? How do you feel about a watch along?
You know I'm there, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know I'm there.
I mean, because me and you, Anish, we watched it on TUDN, so we'll be on the same.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
All right. Does anybody have any other thoughts?
Yeah. Any final thoughts? No.
Yeah. Final thoughts. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Time warpers out there. I'm never gonna stop saying it. Make sure you do that, especially if you stayed through this long.
Yes, if you watch this through this whole thing, man, you're an OG for sure. But yeah, so that's been it for today, guys, and maybe we'll do we will do a post-match reaction for sure, and talk about maybe whatever team wins or whichever team wins, what their chances might be for next season with the confidence they have of winning this year. So, yeah.
We could see back-to-back, honestly.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, like if Bayern win, for sure, they could have the chance for back-to-back.
For sure. And they had Sane, my goodness.
Oh, yes, with Sane. Oof.
This team is going to be insane.
Insane.
Yep.
Insane. Yeah, Gnabry on the right. Sane on the left. Lewandowski, damn, man. They have to sign a replacement for Thiago, though. But
yep, we would.
They should find one in the.
Or unless Kimmich just plays there and Pavard stays at right back.
Although it's the
COVID. I mean, what if?
That's a good shot. That's a good choice.
Aouar's good, yeah. Well, the transfer window is it open?
It's open, but COVID. So.
Oh.
Yeah, it's COVID, so.
Oh, well.
Could be tough.
If there's any big transfers, we'll do some videos on that too, but alright, so that's been it for today, guys. We'll see you guys after the match. Bye.
See you. Enjoy the game.
Yes, enjoy the game.
Comment scoreline prediction.
Yes, for sure. Alright, bye guys.